Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to invite on stage Vice Admiral G Ashok Kumar, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, former National Maritime Security Coordinator, National Security Council Secretariat, on stage to deliver his special address. He's being accompanied on stage by Chairman NMF and DG NMF. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Admiral Ashok Kumar a big hand as he comes upon stage along with the Chairman and DG. Sir, you have the floor.
Start, sir. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Okay, great. Admiral Karambir Singh, Vice Admiral Bilu Chauhan, dignitaries of the stage, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I understand NCC kids are also here. It's a pleasure for me to be here this morning, and I thank the National Maritime Foundation for having invited me to deliver this special address today. First of all, I'm so happy to see the IPRD grow from strength to strength with every edition. And I've been lucky to be a part of this IPRD as I have been in the past as well. The theme for this IPRD is extremely crucial. Capacity building and capability enhancement. And of course, there's a long line of the theme, but essentially capacity building and capability enhancement. And why this is so apt and so timely is because today we live in an era where maritime interests are constantly growing. The dependence of each of the countries on the seas is also constantly growing. And so is the complexity of maritime threats that are there out at sea, threatening maritime security. Because of this, capability enhancement and capacity are the most required elements of addressing maritime security threats today. Having said that, let me just quickly cover why maritime interests are so important to us. We all know, we have heard this time and again, 80% of global trade is maritime in nature. And those contribute quite handsomely to the GDPs of each one of our countries. Similarly, if you look at various other blue economy sectors, whether it is fisheries, whether it is oil and natural gas, whether it is seabed minerals, whether it is dependence on the undersea cables for international communication, whether it is just the ports, which are literally the gateway to economies of each of our countries, whether it is the fishing harbors. India, for instance, has more than 3 lakh fishing boats registered in our country. So all this are actually so crucial for any nation's economy. And yet, what has happened is that the threats have constantly evolved too. The more the interests have grown, the more the threats have evolved. And today, in addition to the traditional threats of piracy, gun running, smuggling, or illegal human migration, IUU fishing, we also have maritime terrorism, which continues to evolve, continues to be, try to be one step ahead of the security forces which are trying to fight them. Similarly, we have threats of missiles and drones coming and hitting merchant ships hundreds of miles into the sea. We have undersea cables which get cut once in a while. I mean, if you look at the example of what happened in the Gulf of Aden, it happens ever so frequently, and more than 60% of the times it is because some merchant ship has dropped anchor and dragged the undersea cable along. Every connect between Asia and Europe is through undersea cables that pass through the Gulf of Aden, through the Bab el-Mandeb, where the depth is only about 180 meters. So when an anchor runs out from a merchant ship, it is surely bound to hit. In early 24, we had a situation where 3 cables in a matter of 1 week were cut. We kind of got together to understand how does it impact us. Yesterday, one of the speakers, Dr. Krishnan, he said as to how internet will continue to run in his country. I suspect whether in India it would, or in a lot of Asian countries it would, if all the cables were to be cut. Of course, there is rerouting possible if, say, a couple of cables were to be cut, because there are a number of private operators involved too. And we did call for a multi-agency meeting with all of them and understood what the repercussions were. If everything were to be cut, then what happens? So there are solutions which we have found. So these evolving threats will continue to challenge us. Now, if you look at even the climate change, which was the first session yesterday, we now have increasing numbers and frequencies of cyclone. Just one of them has hit the Andhra coast last night. And this is only going to constantly keep increasing, mandating or requiring HADR assistance for the region, whichever suffers from these cyclone hits. IUU fishing is something that has been discussed a lot as well, which I'll touch upon much later. So these are now the threats. So, but what is the complication in all this? The complication is the maritime domain itself. Because of the nature of the maritime domain awareness, because of the crowded seas, which are constantly getting more and more crowded, and because of the nature of the maritime sea being global commons, and that everyone enjoys freedom of navigation through them, what happens is that the bad guys mingle easily with the good guys, and the MDA is pretty dense. So that poses a huge challenge for ensuring maritime security. Second is this, that every maritime threat is transnational in nature. Some threat affecting a particular country is not a problem only for that particular country. A piracy attack on a ship in the Gulf of Aden is not a problem only for Somalia or for Yemen, which are the littorals of Gulf of Aden. It is for everybody. It is not without reason that there are so many countries which are deployed, so many navies that are deployed in the Western Arabian Sea. This transnational nature of threat necessitates everybody to be involved, because unfortunately any local problem does not remain local in the maritime domain. It has got international repercussions. And so therefore, there is no option but for us to have a multinational approach in addressing maritime security threats. Take the case of cyclone. Yesterday's cyclone with a 5-degree course alteration could have landed up in Bangladesh. A little more and it could have been Myanmar. So transnational threats require multilateral solutions. So collaboration is the key. I've dropped the word cooperation from my speech. So this is where, when we talk of multilateralism and collaboration for ensuring maritime security, this is where it starts to get complicated. Because when you look at various countries in the region and beyond, the capacities and the capabilities that each one of them have is vastly different. And therefore, the contribution that they can bring to the table in fighting maritime security threats is vastly different too. And yet, one nation's weakness can actually impact upon the other because of the threats being transnational. The other complications are the multi-agency nature of maritime security. Even within this country, if you see something like 27 different agencies and ministries and departments and states and the center are all involved in various aspects of maritime security. And domestic legislations, orders, and these quite often work, or at least sometimes work at cross purposes to each other. So these are the challenges in ensuring maritime security. And all these have to be looked at from the national perspective, a regional perspective, as well as a global perspective. Let me just briefly touch upon each of these one by one. Firstly, when I look at the national picture, the government of India in the recent past has taken numerous steps to address maritime security. One major step which I think, which I'll credit the government for, is to establish the post of National Maritime Security Coordinator. As I mentioned, maritime security is a multi-agency thing, and therefore multi-agency coordination was always a challenge. the National Maritime Security Coordinator is able to get all the agencies together. In fact, a forum that has been created by the NMSC is called the Multi-Agency Maritime Security Group, in which all the ministries, departments, security forces and agencies that are involved with the maritime domain, as well as the coastal states and union territories, all of them are at the same table discussing issues maritime security. In fact, all the coastal states today also have a state maritime security coordinator who attends these multi-agency maritime security group meetings. And there are a number of other issues that this MAMSG has managed to push. If I were to just give you some examples, we did not have position indication transponders on our fishing boats for many, many years. Now, almost all mechanized fishing boats, position indicating transponders have been fitted, which works on satellite GSAT-6, which is up there. Similarly, the PANSCOL, pre-arrival notification of security for all the merchant ships, are now a mandatory requirement before any ship approaches any Indian port. This has made it possible for navies and the Coast Guard to know clearly if a ship which is heading to a port is legally allowed to be heading to the port or not. We have the National Maritime Domain Awareness Project and the Common Operational Picture. I mean, much was said about NMDA or the Maritime Domain Awareness yesterday and having a Common Operational Picture. This NMDA and the Common Operational Picture enables all security forces to have one picture of the maritime domain. Similarly, the CNS yesterday mentioned about Nishar. Nishar has also been exploited in order to enhance better communication between security forces within the country. The Navy, Coast Guard and the Marine Police today are on Nishar dashboard and 24/7 available for each other. AIS transmissions, the UNCLOS only mandates that ships above 300 tons are to have an operational AIS fitted. It did not say you have got to transmit on them. So, but the DG Shipping of India has currently dished out an order in order for every merchant vessel transiting through Indian waters to have AIS transmitting. Otherwise, there is also a fine. So, these are just few examples that I wanted to give you about what actions have been taken in order to enhance maritime security in the country. When it comes to acts and orders, the Maritime Zones of India Act 1976 had some omissions when you compared that with the UNCLOS, basically because the MZI Act was 1976 and the UNCLOS was 82. So there was a 6-year gap. And so that has now been corrected by revising the MZI Act 1976, and it is in the final stages of approval. Similarly, 2025, if you were to look at it, 2025 was literally a golden year for the maritime sector in India. In fact, 5 old orders, existing for over 100 years have been revised and published by the Government of India. If you look at the Indian Ports Act 1908, the Merchant Shipping Act of 1958, there's the new Coastal Shipping Bill, there's a Bill of Lading, and also there is a Carriage of Goods by Sea Bill, all of which have been passed in 2025. We also finally now have, for the last about 3 years or so, a Marine Anti-Piracy Act. The navies and coast guards are now empowered to act against pirates. So these are just a few examples that I wanted to give domestically. When it comes to regionally, like it was said yesterday a number of times, the Navy treats Sagar and Mahasagar as the maritime policy of this country. In fact, almost all the actions taken both by the Navy and the Coast Guard are in line with Sagar and Mahasagar. And there are a number of things that the navies and the Indian Navy and the Indian Coast Guard do. EEZ patrols, exclusive economic patrols for many countries in the region. Corpats, or the coordinated patrols with countries with whom we share an international maritime boundary line to our east, which is essentially Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand and Indonesia, are regularly done once every 6 months. We also, the Indian Navy in 2017, in fact on the 1st of July 2017, transitioned into the concept of, or adopted the concept of what is called mission-based deployments. The mission-based deployments now has an Indian naval ship on a near continuous presence in vital choke points across the Indian Ocean region. And this has actually enabled the Indian Navy to fight these kinds of maritime crimes more efficiently, to undertake collaborative efforts with our friendly foreign countries. Now, when it comes to multilaterals, I must mention about IONS. Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, born in 2008, undertakes a number of capability enhancement workshops and exercises, including sea exercise. In fact, in 2017, for the first ever time, Bangladesh organized IMSA-RX, International Multilateral Maritime Search and Rescue Exercise, which is the first ever sea exercise by IONS. Now, that's kind of become a regular feature for us to conduct different types of exercises. This contributes immensely towards capability enhancement of navies of the region. And similarly, a number of workshops are organized under the verticals which the IONS has. IFC-IOR is another huge step taken by the Indian Navy. This was in December of 2018. And the IFC-IOR, again, like the CN mentioned yesterday, currently has 15 international liaison officers. And it hopes to have 50 by 2028 because there are some infrastructural requirements to accept more ILOs. And therefore, there will be international liaison officers numbering 50 by 2028. In addition to that, the IFC-IOR has signed up with numerous countries and also numerous multilateral agencies to develop and share comprehensive maritime domain awareness picture. The latest entrant into all this is the BIMSTEC Experts Group meeting on maritime security. This started in 2022, and there are numerous measures that have been taken. Today, we have got an international liaison officer in the IFC-IOR from every BIMSTEC maritime nation, starting from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and that's it. So these are the BIMSTEC maritime nations. So every country has got a ILO there. There were about 5 themes identified and 27 specific action points which are identified in the BIMSTEC EGM, and considerable progress has been made on each of these towards enhancing maritime security in the Bay of Bengal. I must also mention about how we have signed up, quite like the IONS and the IORA, which is about to sign it, guidelines on maritime HADR for BIMSTEC. There is one which is about to be signed on guidelines for maritime pollution response between the coast guards of all the BIMSTEC nations. The other organization that does a lot of work on capability enhancement is the Colombo Security Conclave, of which India is a member too. Now, let me just sum it up by saying what can be done in future. Firstly, regional capacity building. If you were to look at regional capacity building, the Indian Navy and the Coast Guard or Indian government has undertaken a number of capacity building issues across the IOR. Many countries now operate India-provided fast attack crafts and aircrafts and helicopters. However, what I would like to recommend is that an organization like the IONS or the IORA Working Group on Maritime Security or the BIMSTEC must put our heads together and take stock of which country requires what. Have a table, and which country is willing to accept assistance, and which of the countries willing to provide assistance. And thereafter, it is kind of match the following. And this also helps us overcome duplication of efforts by different countries into the same country. This is one thing that even Quad probably can undertake, because there are a number of cases where 2 different Quad countries has run to the same country providing assistance, whereas a third country could have been provided in lieu of 2 countries going to the same. Next is capability. Now, while we do a lot of workshops and training vacancies, I come back to the point of the Indonesian Admiral's suggestion of India-ASEAN Training Institute. This was one which was discussed at the Goa Maritime Conclave in 2021. And one of the recommendations made there was to have a center of excellence for non-traditional threats. Maybe non-traditional threats, not a right word, but maritime crimes. And each country with expertise in that particular maritime crime could head that vertical in the center of excellence. What is then proposed was Kochi, but I suppose Bali and Goa are better places. Joint focused operations is another one that I would like to recommend. If you look at, say, Andaman Sea, if you have got a lot of poaching cases, illegal human migrations and things like that, why not the Andaman littorals get together, one nation deploys a ship, others embark it and do an operation. Not just a sail through like quite often we tend to do. It should be a joint focused operation. Info sharing. The trust deficit was discussed a number of times yesterday. Quite often we don't share enough information because of this trust deficit. We should just sit down together and see how to improve this. Nobody is interested in knowing each other's warship positions or Coast Guard ship positions. But the rest of it, we should go ahead. Like BIMSTEC, this is one of the discussion points of sharing the entire picture of Bay of Bengal so that we have a comprehensive maritime domain awareness of Bay of Bengal. IUU, if I were to just quickly sum it up, we have already in the process of signing the Port State Measures Agreement. We have the Regional Fisheries Management Organization, but unfortunately, they do not have enough teeth. Like say the COFA, which is Southern Indian Ocean Fisheries Association, has a boarding and inspection clause. The IOTC, the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, does not have. And also the proof, the burden of proof is on the guy who reports. That can be a huge challenge. BBNJ, India has already signed. And so finally, I would like to just say one more point, my time is running out, is on new problems require a fresh approach to finding solutions. Undersea cables, while we all focused on shallow waters where fishing nets or ships' anchors could kind of break the cable, today we have non-state actors or even at times allegedly state ships dealing with cutting undersea cables. So we need to find solutions for these kinds of threats. With that, I think I've run out of time. I will stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now open the floor for a brief audience interaction. To that end, I hand over the proceedings to Admiral Chauhan.
All right, so we need some hands up. Yes, sir, at the back in the white shirt. Fastest.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Saket Kashyap from Central University of Himachal Pradesh. My question is to Kumar, sir, that the Somalian pirates have caused the supply chain disruption, which have in turn become the biggest factor or one of the cause of the cost and insurance premium spikes. So my question is, so what are the policy steps that India can individually take, and what can be the collaborative steps by the globally and the regional countries to end the piracy from its roots? Thank you.
We'll take another one, yes, at the very back. Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Ayush Bhardwaj. I'm from Rashtra Raksha University. So, sir, my question is, sir, as National Maritime Security Coordinator, so what institutional and legislative asymmetries which most critically impede the establishment of a unified real-time maritime domain awareness architecture, integrating Navy and Coast Guard and State Marine Police, and furthermore, sir, how can NMSC framework institutionalized secure interoperable data sharing ecosystems while reconciling the imperatives of national security classification, technological standardization, and multi-agency accountability? Thank you so much, sir.
We'll take one more question. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Puran Singh, a PhD scholar currently working on the environmental governance. So there is an emergence of various maritime disputes in the recent past regarding maritime boundaries, as the high seas are the rich in resources. So my question is, what is the progress and the measures for resolving such maritime disputes and oceanic resource sharing in high seas?
Okay, we'll take these three and see how we go and whether there's any time left for any others.
Okay, first piracy. I think individually and collectively, there is a lot being done to fight piracy off the coast of Somalia. In fact, if you see organizational structures and deployments, there are huge numbers. One is that the Indian Navy has been deploying there since October of 2008. And it has been a continuous deployment. Right from then, as we speak, there is a ship which is present at the Gulf of Aden. And because a collaborative effort was required, the Indian Navy was earlier participating in shared awareness and deconfliction with all the other navies. But currently, we have also joined the Task Force 150 as a part of CMF. And so collaboration in fighting piracy is at its highest when it comes to that region. That is one. Second question on MDA and data sharing. I think I briefly mentioned about the project which is currently on called the National Maritime Domain Awareness. What happened was that earlier it was kind of service specific. Then it became international. A lot of navies started sharing information. We kind of did not foresee not the necessity, but the complications of sharing within security forces in country. Because firstly, the information which is available, the Navy has got certain information, the Coast Guard has got certain information, the Marine Police as of now do not, but there are other things like the Coastal Radar Chain, the National AIS Chain and things like that, which also give you a picture. The National Maritime Domain Awareness aims to integrate all this. We already have it integrated as a part of the IMAC, where the IFC IOR is. The IMAC is internal to India, the IFC IOR is external to India. So the IMAC already has this. The NMDA is one step further. It will get all kinds of inputs from various sectors within country and also be able to provide a common operational picture to everybody across the board. So there will be concerns in the sense that the Navy does not want to share, say, its aircraft carrier portion. Fair enough, it will not be shared. Similarly, if somebody else does not want to say some particular thing, it is just arriving at what needs to be shared and getting it all together and sharing it. And the third question on maritime boundaries. There is, in fact, there are mechanisms to address various maritime boundary issues that anybody could have. A great example is one that we had with Bangladesh. And when the judgment or the ruling which was given was that the line will be somewhere in between our claim and Bangladesh's claim, both countries happily accepted them and moved on. We looked at it. I mean, there are some media reports to suggest that we have lost half of our claim. And similarly in Bangladesh, media reports were that we have lost half of our claim. Instead of looking at, we have gained half of their claim. And they've gained half of our claim. So that's the only way to go. I really think you need to be matured enough. And once you've gone for an arbitration, whatever the judgment be, it should be acceptable.
Thank you very much. We'll take one last question from the ILO, the International Liaison Officers.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Commander Rahimuddin. I'm the International Liaison Officer presently posted in IFC Hour. First of all, thank you, Admiral Sir, for your thought-provoking insights. Sir, I'm fully on board with you regarding especially 2 points, all the points, and especially 2 points. One is IUU fishing is not only hampering one country or the host country, but also the adjacent country. And the second point is that one of the main reason of trust deficiency is the information cocoon or the information isolation. So I should congratulate India because you are able to fix the transponder, that is AIS Bravo, for more than 3 lakh of your fishing boat, artisanal boat, and other boats. But the issue is, when we talk about the common operational picture, you might have the picture of entire your fishing fleet, but your adjacent country doesn't have. And they are the victim of the IUU fishing. I'm not talking about only India to Bangladesh, or even from Bangladesh also the fishing boat comes to the India. So what do you think that if this information regarding the AIS transponding vessels is shared to the adjacent country who are sufferer from the IUU fishing, that will help both the country to fight together and stop this IUU fishing? What is your view on this? And if it is the case, then why it is not shared yet? Thank you.
Let me tell you, I am 100% in agreement with what you say. In fact, I had also briefly mentioned about as to how BIMSTEC, one of the agenda points that we discussed was to share comprehensive maritime domain awareness information with each other so that we have a complete domain awareness of the Bay of Bengal. Because Bay of Bengal, each of us have such good relationship with each other. It is easy to share, and I am completely, let me also tell you this, in a lot of cases, what happens is that the Coast Guards have their hands full. I don't know whether we have an Indian Coast Guard officer here, but the Coast Guards have their hands full, not only preventing your boat from entering our EEZ, but also from ensuring that our boats don't go into somebody else's EEZ, So there is a endeavor to ensure that IUU fishing does not happen. Are there shortcuts or loopholes that they exploit? Of course they do. Your fishermen on this side also do, our fishermen on that side also do. So there is a need for us to share this information. The transponder picture being shared with the other countries is an offer I'm sure India will be happy to make. And so as soon as the other side is also willing to share their information of everything which is available to this side.
Thank you very much. We have a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to turn over the proceedings to my chairman, Admiral Karambir Singh, in case he has any comments to offer. No? Then it remains for me to thank Admiral Ashok Kumar and thank the audience for those particularly insightful questions. I'm very grateful that the audience is interactive enough, and I'm also obviously very grateful to the fact that the Admiral is capable of not only inciting the questions, but of answering them as well. So I'll hand over the proceedings back to Priyasha.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, in continuation of the book release effected yesterday, I have the privilege to now present to this August gathering an NMF publication that once again reflects the scholarship of the National Maritime Foundation, this one entitled Quantum Era Warfare. The result of a research project under the NMF, this book is authored by Mr. Atul Tripathi and Commodore Manish Sinha, whom I'm delighted to invite on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big hand. This book examines the contours of future warfare through the lens of quantum technology. I now request all the dignitaries on stage to kindly do the honors. Thank you very much. May I now request the Chairman NMF to present a small token of our gratitude to Admiral Ashok Kumar. I request all dignitaries on stage to pose for a group photograph. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking all our dignitaries as they resume their seats in the audience. Thank you, sir.